Let's welcome everybody into the real Kyper and Bourne show. Toronto Maple Leaf edition. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandale, and we welcome back Jen Rolnick as well. Wherever you're picking us up, Sportsnet 590, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus from 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. We're glad you're aboard. And remember, if you can't catch us live, you can always download us on any of your favorite pods. And remember to text us at 590-590, and we'll get some of those comments in today's show. As you can see.
And you can watch it on YouTube, too, after the fact. So if you want to find us there, go there, too.
There's nowhere you can't go.
We're everywhere.
We're everywhere.
Yeah, we're everywhere.
You guys like my Herb Tarlick jacket today?
I very much like that jacket. Yes.
Do you guys know who Herb Tarlick is?
I know the name, but I don't know who it is.
Yeah.
What do you got for me? Sell cars?
70s sitcom sales guy.
Okay, yeah. So I was maybe
with wild jackets.
Yeah.
But Sammy, I'm really hoping that I will remember this jacket forever because I'm hoping it's the jacket that I remember wearing the day we announce the greatest, most talented player in baseball history is coming to the Jays.
So I really do respect and love how much you care about this. I do. Like, I can just tell that you really genuinely care. Like, there's things I know that you don't care about and you pretend to, but this is a thing that you genuinely care about. You've brought it up a lot. And yeah, we're starving here. There was a little bit of details yesterday. There was stuff coming out a little bit, but now it's been solid 24 without any updates, and I'm starving for an update.
The only thing I can think of you're Ohtani is you're like, let me just wake up a few different days and feel, make sure I feel the same way when I'm having pancakes in a couple days. But if I knew the world was hanging on that decision, I'd be like, I couldn't do it. I would have to just make the decision.
There are certain people who like others to wait for them.
Yes.
And maybe he's one of them.
Maybe he's going to hold the special Jim Gray and say, I'm taking my talents to the beaches.
You know when you go like to a supermarket or like Costco or something and you're trying to get into a parking spot and the person's like in their car like sending a text before they like back out? They like to like make you wait.
Yeah.
Certain people have that affinity to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe he's one of them on the most extreme scale possible.
Well, just to keep everybody up to date, if anything does break here at the Rogers headquarters, of course, Sportsnet, Fan 590 would be all over it. Once again, much like yesterday, we'd be booted out of here rather quickly.
We'd get to yell and scream about how fired up we are for 10 minutes, and then
we've got
we'd be out of juice.
We've got people on standby. The sense is maybe it might go throughout the weekend, Sammy.
Yeah, that's what was our boy Morosi was saying, that it could be the end of the weekend. So, listen, I am addicted to my phone as it is. Just talked to my wife about this. I am a true phone addict. It's a bad thing. Oh, yeah. And it's even 10 times worse now. Like, I bet you my screen time report this weekend is not going to be one I want to see.
Ugly,
no,
eh?
It's not going to be one I want to see.
We have got a great show today, loaded with guests, including in a few minutes, General Manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving, will join us.
Second time this year, and it's only December.
Wow.
He wasn't on our show.
Early in the season? Right
Keefe was on our show. Treliving was on the morning show.
Whatever.
See, I just agreed with you.
Guy.
I'm like,
I've heard him talk a lot. Maybe he was on our show.
Justin's never wrong.
Well, he has talked a lot more than
Old
Dubas did in his last year.
Also on the program today, Gord Stellick, of course, former general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, does a terrific job for us here on Leaf Nation pre- and post-game. He's going to join us in about 25 minutes, and we'll maybe dissect a little bit of what Brad Treliving will tell us, which includes the official announcement that John Klingberg will choose surgery and essentially be out the rest of the season.
Yeah, 5 to 6 month recovery. Obviously, that's going to be on the Leafs LTIR for the rest of the season. So, we'll pick through a little bit of what that means for the Leafs now that they will likely have a little bit of flexibility to play with, which they hadn't anticipated having.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to talk to him. I think it's important that now more than ever, general managers do get ahead of situations like this for no other reason. Eyebrows are always raised.
Oh,
now.
come on. I saw people saying that.
You were the first one for Tampa, Vegas.
I think I'd probably be the first one.
Oh, no,
that's
Sammy.
not
Yeah, I would
this.
say it was me.
That's not this.
Of course it's
The guy's
this.
having
They're
surgery.
all the same.
Do you think it's...
They're all the same.
No, that's... You intend to have those guys back.
No, I think it's important. Do you think Brad Treliving's coming on our show if there wasn't a sense of clearing up the air for John Klingberg?
And you think it's a clearing up the air of saying, we're not just Robidaw Islanding this guy. This is real.
Yes.
I think the difference with the...
And I think
don't
it's
even like the
important.
implication.
But comparing it to Kucherov, I guess would be the most obvious comparison, is that Kucherov got in the offseason and then milked it all season until the playoffs, as opposed to this where he tried to play.
By the way, it was definitely Sammy.
100%.
It was Sammy.
Saying it.
Yes. It was not you.
Thank you for
It
clearing
was
that
Sammy.
up. Yeah.
All me, boys. All on this one. But I think it's a different situation. The guy tried to play. He clearly was hampered. He wasn't as bad as he showed. So, anyways, got Brad.
Okay, as promised, let's bring in General Manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving. Hey, Tree, before we get into anything specifically, even someone of your stature could get dumped pretty quickly for an Ohtani announcement. You realize that, right?
Yeah. Hey, you hit end if that one comes through the wire. I got it. I know where I sit.
Just quickly on that, there's a general manager. Your counterpart in baseball is Ross Atkins right now, and he's going through this incredible process of trying to nail down one of the most greatest talent in baseball history. As a general manager, do you watch that? Would you get envious of being in that type of situation? If you were in that situation, would you enjoy it, or would it just be so stressful?
Well, that's the job, right? I would say I think they're enjoying the heck out of it. If you've got an opportunity to add a talent like that to your team, that's what you're in the business for. So, yeah, they can be stressful. Those processes are long. You're trying to manage it. I know there are reports, and we deal with it all the time. Reports get out there. A lot of it's inaccurate information, so you're trying to manage that process. But to be in the fight and to be right in the middle of the fire, I think that's why you do this job. So I wish them all the very, very best. I have absolutely no clue where that whole process is, but I think it'd be awesome for, obviously, the Jays. It'd be awesome for our city and the country, quite frankly. So, but they're complicated. They're competitive, but if you're at the table, you got a chance.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if it's going to take the Ohtani number to get Willie or not, Brad, but we can get into that a little bit later. I wanted to give you the chance to just talk about the Klingberg situation. That seems to be the news of the day, and I think why you're joining us, kind of what's going on there. We understand that he tried to play, couldn't. What was sort of the process of getting to where you guys are at now with John Klingberg?
Well, you're right, Justin. Obviously, this goes back now several weeks where, John got to a point where, he wasn't able to play. And we had some stops and starts with it. And when you have an injury, it's there's things you can play through, there's things you can't. And there's a difference between being hurt and injured. And we looked at, is there a way to sort of patchwork it together here? And you saw, going back a few weeks where John would play a couple of games, miss a game, play a game, miss a couple of games. And then the decision was made just to let's hit pause here and see if some time away, both from a rehab perspective and a process that we were going through to see if we could, get John to the point where he could be back, not only playing, but being effective. But in the interim, look at what's going on and what the different options might be. And then ultimately the decision is made that, you have to have surgical intervention here. And, it's certainly disappointing. John's disappointed. He wanted to play. Anytime that it's a big step anytime that you have a surgical procedure. But, in this case where, you're talking on several months in rehab and effectively ending the season, John and ourselves wanted to make sure we took all the time that was necessary to make the right decision. And so that's, we got to that point. And now once you make that decision, you get on with the next steps of getting the surgery set up and get through that procedure and on to rehab. So that's really where it's at.
We're talking to Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Brad, in the last few years, there have been Stanley Cup champions that have found a way to put guys on LTR and then have them reappear in the playoffs. And, their eyebrows is raised. Obviously, nothing has come of it, but there are some people that have accused Los Angeles or Tampa Bay of circumventing it, the situation. But is it important for general managers today to to air it clean in terms of, dotting their I's, crossing their T's on a situation like this more than ever before?
Well, I think I can't speak to any other situation, Nick. LTI is there in a cap world where you have a player that's, just what it says, is injured long term, and it allows you, number one, the player's got to meet the criteria to fall under that designation. So, in this case with John, there's no cuteness here. It's a player that will have a significant, surgical procedure here. So I don't think anybody's going to get into trying to be cute and deal with a significant medical issue that way. But certainly there's, as there is with any rule or regulation, you've got to go through a process. The league is always going to monitor these situations to ensure that there's strict compliance. And but at the end of the day, I would venture to say that most of these, and I can't speak to all the situations out, in other markets or other teams, but when a player's gone on and missed significant time, there's a reason for it. And whether there's an injury that requires significant rehab, whether there's surgery, that's just the way it is. And so I think a lot of that gets, there gets to be I think the debate. I don't think there's a whole lot of debate of players going on LTI of any funny business going on here. When you go back and there's been some in recent memory here. Those players have had surgery. I mean, they have significant medical issues. I think where the debate comes in, and there has been, is players coming back and then you're effectively playing in the playoffs at a roster that exceeds sort of a salary cap. There is no salary cap in the playoffs. So I know there's been some debate about that issue over the last number of years, but it's pretty clear. Those players, any player that's going on LTI, the league is very thorough in terms of following up and ensuring that that the player complies with that designation, and that it is what it is. You've got it there, and those players that go on LTI, they're dealing with something of significance.
Brad, so with Klingberg officially out, Liljegren's still not back, Giordano hurt. I've heard you acknowledge that you could use some help on the back end. One of the teams that has help, obviously, the Calgary Flames, your former club. We've seen Zadorov move on already. There's Tanev and Hanifin as names that have come up. Do you anticipate that the way that you left Calgary would have any impact on their interest in trading with you? Do you think that is still a team that would be available to, we could get players from here in Toronto from the Flames? Is that relationship still in good repair there?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment, Justin, on any other players.
Yeah.
I know there's always speculation. I mean, I'm not going to comment on any players in any other teams at any time, and never have, never will. As far as the situation in Calgary, I've got a great relationship with the people in Calgary. The management team there that you deal with, and I would say they're not unlike any other team that you deal with, right? Every team has got the business that they're trying to complete. Not every situation is the same. And so, but it's none of my business to comment on what any other team is trying to do, other than worry about our business. And listen, I've made it clear, coming into the season, that we would like to see if we can help ourselves on defense. Now, that's a great statement. It's a matter of going out and doing it. And then these are certainly not making excuses. It's the manager's job to go in and improve the team. Now, what we would say is we've had players that we've signed over the offseason, and Lagesson and Benoit, that have come in and I think have done a real admirable job. They've come in. I think they're getting better. They're big bodies. They've competed hard. But certainly, where our aspirations are as a team, would we like to improve the defense? Absolutely. It all comes at a cost. There just isn't a lot of high-end defensemen that people are dying to give you for low cost. So you look at the assets that you have in terms of potential trades, and the team here has been trying to win and spend some assets over the last couple of years that teams trying to win do. That's normal course. That's what happens. So you also got to be careful of how far do you chase it, and ultimately what is the cost that you're going to have to pay for somebody that can come in and make a significant difference. And so we'll continue to work that market. That's I'm not making any headline statement here. I mean, we're no different than anybody else. Every team at this time of the year is trying to improve themselves. We've gone through, it was an area that we were looking to try to help ourselves before. We've had a lot of injuries in that area. We've had players that come in, and I give them a lot of credit for how they're playing. We're hopeful that we're going to, that help is on the way in the not too distant future with some of the players that are out, that are returning to health. And in the meantime, we'll continue to look to see if there's ways that, that we can help ourselves at a cost that we think makes sense. And, I guess the interesting part is when you look at, just the timing of which there's, just this at this early stage in the year, you're talking about a lot of teams that are still, people are trying to figure out where they are, what they are as a team, where they're going to sit. We're a long ways away from the trade deadline and you see obviously that's the deadline, the last time you can make trades. But, for the most part, teams have solidified themselves as buyers or sellers. We still got a lot of runway. It's early in the season. We're just past the 20-game mark. So we'll continue to work it and see if there's a way to improve an area that we'd like to improve.
One more, Brad, and I promise I'll let you go here. It's projected that the salary cap, speaking of cost, will be up towards $88 million next year. Is that a good and bad case scenario for you? Good that you got more money, but bad that you got to give it all to Willie?
Well, it's good news that there's going to be growth. I mean, we all know that, all of us, all the teams have gone through, it's been a stagnant cap really for lack of a better term. There really hasn't been any growth as we've gone through the last number of years. So to have, to be in a position where there's growth, I think is a positive thing for sure. And certainly we have Willie to sign. I mean, that's I've stated it, anytime I've asked, is that's our sole objective is to try to get him signed. We continue to work at that. And then, apart from that, we have decisions to make elsewhere. And we continue to balance as we talk about the now with respect to the defense and the injury with John and the such, with knowing what's coming on the books next year and what the cap situation is. So we'll continue to work that puzzle. We'll be happy with any increase. The fact that cap's moving up is a positive thing. Now it's our job to figure out how we best utilize it.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed the last few days in between games, because it sounds like you're going to get real busy here soon. Brad, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, we got to get back playing.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate your time.
Okay, guys. Thanks for having me on. We'll talk to you soon.
That's Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they get set tomorrow night. Battle of Ontario, the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
what'd you get out of that?
I got out of it a reference to, we've spent a lot of assets before I got here. Like, I would like to do things, but have you guys checked the bank account? I don't have a lot to spend. I feel like that is a reasonable point to make when you're talking about we're pursuing assets, but like they've been trying to win here. So
I heard that too.
what do you want me to trade? I got nothing.
I also heard him being very polite. A lot. Very polite. That guy knows his way around a radio interview.
I feel like, yeah, he does.
He knows his way around it.
You think you want to tell me to
But
go kick rocks?
Oh, yeah. But hey, I thought it was a fair question.
All right.
But now he's got $4.1 million dropping in his lap.
Yeah.
And it's not
the breakfast ball. It's getting teed up.
Yeah, he gets
it's
another
not
swing.
like there's a huge list. It's not like he's going to Costco with a big giant shopping
me
cart
every Sunday morning.
right? Start pulling 6 foot
3,000 goldfish, please.
6'3"
I could use another Kirkland
goldfish
hoodie.
at 220.
Yeah.
But he was very complimentary to Benoit and Lagesson, which is okay. But it will get better. He's gonna do something. But how much better is it really gonna look with maybe one more guy?
Well, I also did catch him say something to the effect of a lot of teams are still trying to figure out what they are. And I don't think it's unreasonable for the Leafs or their GM to suggest we're not entirely sure what they are. They go to overtime every time they play, but they've only been beaten a half dozen times. They don't win in regulation. Like they're teetering on the edge. They've had some injuries. Is a fully healthy Leafs team a lot better than their current record? I think it's fair to be like, we don't think we're bad. We're not sure. We're going to let this play out for a little bit more. Hey, Benoit is playing well enough that could he be a 6?
Yes.
He could be a legit
He's
6 for them without spending an asset.
He's playing as if that is a viable choice now, a real choice.
Yeah.
Not a hope and a prayer at the beginning of the season. Now, you still got 3 weeks going into Christmas and a lot of games after Christmas. If he can hold his own, he's looking at being a 6-7.
Yeah, and
in a playoff series.
I wrote an article today, which the summary of it is there's so much parity in the league that it's kind of tough to tell who's good from who isn't. There's about 20 teams that are about the same, which means that, I don't love that for the record, but it means that everyone kind of has a chance. Like a weird team could win a Stanley Cup this year. All the teams have some flaws. The Bruins guys came on, all the people and go, yeah, we're not sure about the Bruins. Having a guy like Benoit in your 6th spot is not a major roster flaw compared to X team, Y team,
talking about
Z team.
A mid Stanley Cup champion?
Oh, very much so. Welcome to the mid-offs. The year the St. Louis Blues won the Cup, I predicted a team that was sort of a little bit off the radar would win. They were in the basement in December.
Once in 100 years.
We're there again. The 100 years is back, baby.
Listen, based on the percentages that we're seeing, I get it.
There's 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that are below a 500 points percentage. 2 out of 16. 14 teams are 500 or better in terms of points in the East. Everyone's pretty good or okay.
All right, Sammy, we're going to take a break, or we got a little time before we go to a break, and then Gord Stellick.
You want to go to the talk about practice today?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do. Because just prior to our show starting, you had mentioned something that was Sheldon recorded as not being very happy in practice today, or was that something that some media outlet picked up?
Let me find the exact quote. He said, Sheldon Keefe, not happy with the pace of practice so far. It is effing horse poop. Is what he was heard screaming at the guys.
Okay, so this was the media picking up from afar. This was not in a scrum or anything today, right?
This was him on the ice where the media is present screaming F horse poop at his team.
I think it speaks volumes for the sense of urgency as early as tomorrow night in Ottawa to
It's a good hockey team in Ottawa.
to win.
Well, I shouldn't say
We're
good,
not
but
sure.
they're not a bad hockey team.
They're mid. Right?
This is
So
That's why I wrote the column.
right.
Yes, but they're mid like everyone else. They can beat you.
And they had a sound effort against the New York Rangers.
They just came off a 6-2 win. They're currently 8th in the Atlantic at 10-10.
They showed that they could score off the rush, which apparently the Rangers don't know how to shut down anymore. They did, I think, for a good 3-4 weeks, but that's kind of lost out of their game the last little while. But this is for the Leafs tomorrow night could present a dangerous team.
Yeah. Did we end up with the audio of Sheldon?
We do. We have the clip.
Let's hear what Sheldon had to say, and then I got a thought on it.
Well, I think part of that is just, like I was saying, there's positives and negatives to not playing and to practicing, right? You get to practice time, you work on some things, but then, the negative piece of it is you're not necessarily game ready, right? So you're trying to manufacture that, as much as you want guys to compete at a high level and work and practice. It's not the same as a game when you're going against your teammates. So when you're trying to maintain high standards and habits that you want to develop through games, it's difficult to do when you don't play for a bit. Then you're going to play against a team that has been playing. So you're trying to manufacture that through practice time. But yes, certainly you want to get in a rhythm here. It's been unnatural in terms of how our schedule's been the last month or so.
I'd say.
We like to start building our game and building some positive momentum, and having games without disruptions is part of that. But we got to take care of the first game in front of us and look to build that momentum here with a busy stretch coming.
You know what they need? A good practice fight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll get the guys going.
Wrong team.
Yeah.
I think I had more of those than I had game fights.
We're on this show for multiple times this season has been Allen Iverson. We've been talking about practice.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about
We've played multiple clips on the show this week.
Practice.
About practice. About practice. They don't play hockey games. They practice.
So are you surprised
Not a
at
game.
his outburst?
No, I'm not at all.
I didn't mind it.
I like it. I think of the stat, and I don't have the exact one, but it's like when a team playing Game 7 wins and they go up a team that just swept an opponent, the team that won Game 7 has won Game 1 like 7 of the last 8 times, or 7 of the last 7 maybe.
Yeah.
Because you've been playing. That game intensity is still there. You were aware of the tenacity it takes on every puck to win these sort of games. And when you're away from the game, it's like hopping on a moving treadmill, and you're like, oh, God, this is really quite fast.
Wow, this is a good league.
Good league. And I think he's trying to, again, manufacture that.
I think I like it because, at least for me, it makes me feel like Sheldon's identifying that we've only won 5 games in regulation out of 22.
Yeah.
And there's underlying reasons for that. And now I'm watching it again in practice. So I think his sense of urgency to push them now is good.
Mm-hmm.
And like, picture now another 22 games. So they're at 44, and he's got 10 regulation wins.
Mid.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, tough to imagine their record being as good as it is if they only have that many.
I'm just saying that he knows he can't. He's got to whatever's going on. He's got to kind of end it now.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's not liking what he sees, then good on him for letting them know. Dean Evison, I'm sorry. Have you watched Minnesota lately?
Oh, they're on fire.
4 straight
they
wins.
stunk before that. So here's Sheldon now. He's watching a coaching change in Minnesota change them. He's going in to play the Ottawa Senators, and we'll get into Jacques Martin being added on our national show. But there's now another, like, don't tell me that doesn't have something to do with him just being aware of, scenarios out there, and he's got to get this team going.
Yeah. I've looked at the league in today and talking about all this parity. One of the reasons I think the Flyers are where they're at is because everyone's mid, and the Flyers have a coach who will grind you to a nub.
Yeah.
And so maybe that doesn't pan out over 82 games, but in the early going here, that grinding of your team is getting a lot of points out of a pretty mid Flyers team.
Balls.
Okay. This is Sheldon, I think, trying to really turn the screws a little bit and be like, we're not going to sleepwalk into Ottawa and walk out of there with 2 points. It's just not going to happen. So,
and I think, like you said, the coaching change stuff, and there's no way he's not feeling it, because he knows that this team is not performing as well as the teams that he has had in the last couple of years that can kind of just like snap the fingers. Feels like the snap of the fingers isn't quite there. He's got a new boss who you guys just spoke to. Like, it's a different situation than it has been in years past for him. And I think you see him lose his mind on the bench, seeing him lose his mind like this at practice. Like, he wasn't doing this last year.
No.
So he's feeling it, which I like.
Sure.
You want a man coaching for his job. That's what you want. Desperation.
John Cooper.
Yeah, baby.
Lean on him, boys.
Okay, let's take a quick break because we're going to bring back Gord Stellick, another general manager, former one. But he'll have lots to say on Sheldon's outburst today at practice. That and so much more still to go on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Don't go away. Okay, as promised, jam-packed with guests. Let's welcome in former general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs and the son of legendary Ernie's TV Repair in Leaside. Let's welcome in Gord Stellick.
He was at North Toronto and Leaside, Ernie's TV Repair, Kyper, just for the record. But I appreciate the shout out to my late dad.
Yes, absolutely. And you know how I know this? I had my next door neighbor, Gibby, who you guys have met.
Oh, Gibby.
Used to
What's
have
up, Gibby? We miss you.
Ernie come in and fix their TV when he was a kid.
Really?
Yes. And
now TVs are disposable. You can get them for like $200 and they're 90 inches.
And Gibby's family would call Gord's dad up and say, the TV's smoking. And Ernie's reply was, just give it a good bang on the side. And it worked. And it worked. It stopped smoking.
Yes. He knew his stuff.
He knew his stuff. How are you, pal? We good?
I'm good. I'm really good.
All right.
Really good. I think Dean Evason has broken 4 of the modern day TVs watching his old team play. So I'm glad they're a lot cheaper nowadays.
You know, Gord, we just mentioned before the break, maybe, you know, Sheldon had a bit of an outburst today calling out his team in practice, according to our source, Sammy McKee. And I'm just wondering now, you know, is this the time when he's really got to kick it in here and string some regulation wins?
Yeah, you know, Kippy and Justin, I also think Sheldon's at a place now that the new general manager kept him on. We know about how he had to walk back some comments before in other years, and maybe better choice of words is what he's doing now. But yeah, you know, they are scraping and scuffling right now, which is good if you're the Red Wings or the Arizona Coyotes, but not if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs or the Carolina Hurricanes. Like I just thought, you know, they could have a kick-ass regular season. Let's see what happens in game number 83. But instead, there's been a lot of positives, but you know, there's a bunch of there's a really big middle, and they're in the middle. So I think, you know, he's got to, much like Rick Tocchet did in Vancouver, come out a couple of times, like set some standards that, particularly with the kind of team they have and the talent, that certain times it's just not good enough to get to the promised land they think they should be.
You know, we had a chat yesterday, a funny chat about alpha dogs, and like, you know, Kip loves having a guy in the room, and I think a lot of people do it. That'll grab you by the collar and say, "Hey, come on, we need you." I thought about that today when hearing about Sheldon in that practice. That's where you'd love your captain or someone to, you know, start yelling at the guys and get on the ice. In the past, we've seen the Leafs go get Joe Thornton, or Jason Spezza was the talkative guy. Like, do you have to have that? Is it something the Leafs lack and still may need to pursue if this team wants to take another step?
But you know, it's an interesting mix, Justin, because I agree. I mean, Kip had one of the all-time greats in Mark Messier. I think Gary Roberts was a good example. That with some guys, he could tell them just to bleep off whatever, and you know, and they listened to him. You know, think about Bob Gainey in the old days with the Montreal Canadiens, whatever. That, you know, the makeup of this Leafs, and I really see them asserting more the young leadership group, but they don't seem to have that kind of guy. They're all different animals. John Tavares is pretty quiet. You know, Mitch Marner, you know, wants to be a leader, but, you know, different, a little sensitive. Austin Matthews is just genuine Austin, which is great. I think Morgan Riley may be the best example, but I'm not sure what he has inside there. But I do agree that there's a spice there they haven't had with this team that I think could be a real positive.
Gord, as far as the captain, John Tavares, he's closing in on 1,000 points, and it just seems like no matter what he does, I don't think anybody will ever get over, but he makes $11 million. And I think in a perfect world, if it was half of that, we'd probably be celebrating him a lot more. You agree?
Well, you look, and I heard you talking to Brad Treliving about Show Otani. It's not the money; it's the cap hit, right? I mean, nobody resents what a J may make in a non-cap world, but yeah, it's yet it was the greatest day ever, the greatest free agent signing ever when it happened. I think pretty well everybody was on board, but the guy doesn't have the same flash as Marner, as Matthews, but he's always been great in the greasy area. Good, hard two-way player. I mean, a number one overall pick. And it's unfortunate. You're right. I mean, that number, given the hard press against the cap world, and keep in mind the pandemic, they look for projections of 4 or 5 million every year. So that kind of really thwarted that he was stuck at 11. Others were growing, and the cap wasn't moving. So we just have to live with it. If you're a Leaf fan, and see what happens next time. But his salary is a reality.
So, Gordo, the decor of the Leafs is the area that needs the most addressing. I think most people would agree with that. Treliving was talking about that and really praised Legason and Benoit. Do you see enough from those guys to think, and I'll include Timmins in that mix, like when we get to playoffs for this Leafs team, how many of those guys are a part of the Leafs decor?
By the way, is Robidas Island still open for Klingberg?
Population's pretty full, I think, but they'll make room.
He can take Joffrey Lupul's place. I don't know, but anyway, that was a memory of a few years ago. Funny thing, Justin, is you look at this team and they talk about needing defense. Yet last year in the playoffs, the last 7 playoff games, they didn't score more than 2 goals per game. And you really of late, they're not getting clobbered. Like 5-3, 6-3, 7-3. They're by and large giving up 3 goals in regulation time. So I think there's an understanding that you want some kind of upgrade based on what they have there. And you guys you mentioned, I do think they've been doing a serviceable job. It's just a mix of a lot of things. Like at times, last year the D came through and all those guys were injured, including Justin Hall, who's since departed, probably played his best hockey, and Giordano played great, playing a lot of minutes. But in this case, you know it, 1 or 2 D if you're talking about going far in the playoffs. But I think too often it's our go-to criticism. There's really a lot of moving pieces that have to come together in its entirety more consistently.
Gord, as far as the goaltending is concerned, I don't think anybody could not feel good about Joseph Woll or where his future lies with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yet, we've been waiting a long time since training camp for Samsonov to show some consistency and some stability. It hasn't come. We're closing in on Christmas. And how long do the Leafs need to wait? Let me ask you this. If we were maybe a week or 2 away from a trade deadline, how many people would be screaming on the Leafs to go get some help for Joseph Woll right now, because this guy is not dependable?
Yeah, but a couple of years ago was David Riddick. They never ended up using him as a number 3. Okay, so first of all, last year, you look at Bobrovsky. He wasn't even considered good enough to start game number 1 for Florida, and he just got hot at the right time. I mean, it's just a case of when does a goaltender happen to get hot? Samsonov showed that last year that he could get hot. I think the key is you have one goaltender that is going great in Joe Woll. But to your point, Kippy, you saw Vegas did it, other teams, the whole goaltending by committee, having some depth. I mean, Vancouver, probably the best thing is picking up Casey DeSmith as a solid backup after Thatcher Demko's been a big reason in how well they played. So, there's a lot of pieces out there. I still want to see what he can do. I still think, hey, Martin Jones may be an option as far as that goes, because you can't just get a body, okay? You can't, but if there's one you target that you particularly like, and also keep in mind, they've lost a lot of draft picks trading to try to win the Stanley Cup. There's only so many cards they can play when it comes to trade deadline, in and around trade deadline, and they got to prioritize everything.
Yeah, the Martin Jones thing is interesting. He's only 33, which I got to believe is somewhere in the Bobrovsky sort of age range. It's not impossible. I don't know, is he any better or worse than the next guy who might be available? Be curious to see, what kind of run he would get. As they kind of head towards this path of average in the division, and we're trying to see what they can really become. Detroit Red Wings are 7-2-1 in the last 10 games. Is it suddenly, are they a team now that the Leafs are like, okay, it's not just Tampa Bay and Boston and Florida, like they're looking out for the Red Wings a little bit?
So here's Justin, what I kind of worry about, and I still believe in the team, and of course it all come to the playoffs, but whatever number of years it was, Joel Quenneville was coaching Chicago at their zenith. and they played the Leafs early. And he said, man, that reminds me of my team when Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews started. And we thought in Toronto, okay, you know what? 5 years down the road, say around now, they would have supplanted Boston in first place. Okay, they would be better than Tampa Bay. They would be the best team in the Atlantic Division. And they've never been that. The only time was the Canadian division. Now the Florida Panthers, are they a better team than the Toronto Maple Leafs? Are the Detroit Red Wings on the verge of being a better team of the Toronto Maple Leafs? And they're all in the Atlantic Division. And this, so I'm not saying those teams are, but I thought the Leafs would be perennially now like, say, Vegas is, or a Colorado, kind of cutting themselves from the herd, not worrying. Like last year, basically, when they came an early second, a strong second to a very good Boston Bruin team. So, yeah, you put Detroit in the mix with little moves that they're making, and everyone seems to be gaining because they can get that depth that the Leafs can't get because of the cap constraints.
Justin and I had an earlier conversation about teams in the middle, and right now we all projected the Leafs were going to be one of the top teams in the Atlantic Division, and the further you go, the more you might be just convinced that they may be one of these teams that just hangs in the middle with the rest of the group here. I don't think there's going to be a scenario of a St. Louis bottom feeder to win a Stanley Cup, but could this be the year one of those mid teams, and will include the Toronto Maple Leafs, can win a Stanley Cup?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I love the fact, because keep in mind last year, not only did we know the Leafs were going to play Tampa Bay early on, then by Christmas, we knew they were going to have home ice advantage and play Tampa Bay. We knew all 8 teams in the East that were going to be in the playoffs. There were no playoff races. So I'm enjoying that part. But I didn't think the Leafs would be in a dogfight for one of those spots. So if they have that, if you want to call it subpar regular season, you can always save it in the playoffs. And that would be, say, the St. Louis scenario. But again, boy, oh boy, if you have a not so great regular season, a playoff disappointment again, there's only so often you can go to the well. But there's no question. And maybe, like Kippy, I don't know what the recipe is. I don't know, 82 games. You did it in the Canadian division. It was, 56 or 58 games. You're up 3-1 in Montreal, and then you go out in the worst style. You play your worst 3 games of the year when you absolutely needed it. You beat the Oilers 3 straight in the regular season. 3 different goaltenders almost got shutouts. 2 got shutouts. The third just let 1 goal lead. I thought that was great. What's more perfect than that? So maybe scratching, clawing, scuffling for a good chunk of the season may pay dividends at the end of the season. It's an inexact science, but if that's what they're doing right now, that's what you have to hope for at the end.
Yeah, overcoming hardships, not the worst thing. I want to give you an opportunity to tell us about the hardship of the 1977-78 Toronto Maple Leafs. In a book you wrote, which we should plug for you, heading towards Christmas Revival, I noticed a couple of Islanders on the cover of the book. My father-in-law is one of the pictures on there, which is pretty cool. So tell us about the book and the process of how that got made. There it is, folks. Check it out on television.
Oops. I can't. I got to go the right way. Anyway, it's called Revival, and it's the colorful, chaotic journey of the 77-78 Leafs. And there's a couple of parallels, okay? Yeah. One is about the Leafs this time, and I talked to Daryl Sittler about it, still part of the Leafs. He says, this current team needs a series win like they did against your dad's New York Islanders back in 1978. I mean, that's what they need, that kind of win when they're a big-time underdog, and maybe that'll happen. And also, it was a team with iconic names like Sittler, Williams, McDonald, and Salming. All 4 were the best of friends 30-plus years later on. This has some iconic names in Matthews, Marner, Tavares, Riley, you name Nylander. I don't know what they'll be in 30, 40 years down the road, but there are some parallels, and what they need to do is win that playoff series. But it was a labor of love. So many great people involved in it. Jimmy Gregory, Roger Nielsen. You couldn't meet 2 better people ever in the game of hockey. So I did it with Damian Cox. I got to admit, I carried him a little bit, but when have I not? And anyway, it is a fun read. No, Damian did a great job, and we're really there you go. See someone putting it out properly. We're really pleased the way it turned out, and it really all started, Justin, when Borja came back last year, the Hockey Hall of Fame weekend, and just the just his presence, the cheers, the emotion, all that, and we kind of drew from that and decided let's go back. And it really is the whole 70s. Like, it's about that team all coming together back then. So Anyway, thank you very much for the plug. I think it's a really good read if you choose to pick a sports book.
Look at the net. Put the cover back on if we can. Look at the net.
The room Clark's net.
Clark's looking at. Like, call me. Be big, buddy. Be big.
Imagine giving Ovi a look at that. That's pretty hilarious. By the way, reading like sort of the promo for the book, it's like owner Harold Ballard had just been released from jail and was back to his meddling ways. It's like, what was going on in that era of hockey?
It would have been really fun for social media back then, boy, to follow the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Real easy.
God.
Well, and see, they talk about that. He had fun that year. He left them alone. He had a blast. And then to what we're talking about, this current team, the next year he got impatient, started souring on Jimmy Gregory and Roger Nielsen, brought in Punch Imlach for the second time, and it's never been the same. Well, I mean, they've had, glimmers under Pat Burns and Pat Quinn and that, and a lot with this team. But yeah, anyway, that's the part of the story about, hey, wait, if you want to blow something up, that's a lot easier than rebuilding. I know people get impatient, go, blow it up. Well, You do that. That's easy. The other part's difficult.
Yep.
Gord, always a pleasure having you on our show. We love it, bud. Thanks for doing this.
No, any TV issues, give me a call. Ernie's lineage exists, okay?
Love it. Love it.
See you, buddy.
Thanks, pal.
They're too thin to slap now. You cut your hand. I don't know.
Am I on? Yeah,
there you go.
I saw a great meme recently about those old TVs.
Yeah.
It's like, well, in my day, we didn't have to worry about anybody stealing a TV because it took 4 people to move it
You
a
need a
foot.
forklift to get it in your house. And I remember, the depth of the one I had when I was a kid.
Yeah, oh my God, they were massive. It's like your dad would call in 5 of his buddies to get it like up the stairs.
But they did have a big sweet frame around it with a whole side on the section.
Oh, yeah.
It was like a station wagon.
Ours was wood panel, too.
Now the TV I have and just mounted to the wall, I could carry alone easily.
Yeah, and it's like an art picture frame when you're not using it. And, things are a little different.
It is amazing what's out there right now. All right.
There's nothing to talk about now. So because they haven't played hockey in 6 weeks, so there's nothing to talk about.
Nothing on our baseball pitcher and
hitter.
Home run hitter.
The latest I saw from Scott Mitchell, who covers the Jays, was a picture of Ross Atkins on the phone. So,
okay. Well, it's nice to know
that's the latest updates. He's grinding on the phone.
Did you see Ross's interview? I think it might have been the Major Baseball Network, MLB.
Yeah, MLB Network Radio. Yeah.
Kind of looked.
I saw it.
Not smug, but it's like I know something. I'm just
excited.
Not.
He looked a little excited, didn't he?
You.
He looked a little excited.
Should have been.
I'm looking
a lot more nervous.
Isn't there a name for like a professional body language expert?
Body language doctor? I don't know.
Yeah.
But he is built for this. He has
say absolutely nothing.
He has never said an interesting thing ever. So this is like, if this is what truly puts it over the line, where he said nothing, we've been playing the long game the whole time.
So the only thing close to this, and like, was it you earlier today sent out somebody had flight patterns? Flight patterns. This is where we're getting to.
Oh, yeah.
But this has that Kawhi feel and the Babcock feel as well when he first signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs, when people were trying to figure out what chartered flights are where.
This is one of the greatest things about being a sports fan.
In this era.
And just in general, is, there's cheering for the guys on the field or on the ice or whatever, on the court. And then there's the off season where you're courting the next star. And I think there's 2 great parts of being a sports fan, but this part may be sneaky more exciting than the actual stuff.
This is what hockey's been lacking with no salary cap, no ability to move. Everyone just gets grinding old Bill Nylander for $20 over here.
I spent a couple of hours today with the Kruger company out in Mississauga. They do tissues. So
I'm going to need those in the spring.
Burned through a few over the years.
I brought a ton for you, Sammy, when he goes to L.A., when he goes to the Dodgers.
Whatever.
All right, our thanks to Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, current and former Gord Stellick, one of our favorites. Stick around. We got another hour to go on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Jamal Mayers is going to come and join us in studio, help tee up Wednesday night hockey, plus Ottawa news. All right, well, welcome everybody into the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live and in color on Sportsnet and Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver and Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. As promised before the commercial break, that we're going to bring in a huge star. Jamal Mayers joins us. He's getting ready tonight. It's Wednesday night hockey on Rogers, Pittsburgh, and Tampa. We also have the Edmonton Oilers getting right back in it with their quest to get back into the race. Jammer, how are you, pal? Thanks for joining us.
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
All right. In terms of where you want to start, you want to help us tee up your game a little bit tonight?
Sure.
7 o'clock start?
Yeah, obviously it's Pittsburgh and Tampa. Two teams that are kind of similar this year. We're underachieving, perhaps. Tampa having a little bit of an excuse with Vasilevsky being out. But now that he's got back, can they kind of find a way to get their groove back? I feel like they've taken an exhale and the last little while, and they've had to find a way to play Tampa Bay hockey. But I'm not quite sure they're built the same to be able to do that anymore. So, having done one of their games and talking to Coop, and I think I could kind of sense that feeling from him as well. That, are they really that team that they were to contend for a cup?
That's, we were talking about the Leafs, like Sheldon almost feels like desperate. He's yelling at the team today on the ice, like their record's decent. Tampa kind of feels like the same thing where Cooper, you see him getting mad at the team on the bench a lot more. And earlier this year on our show, he said he doesn't have to yell at them very often because they know. But like, it's almost like you feel it slipping through your fingers a little bit because they've spent a lot of assets to be good. So there is some worry, you think, with Cooper that maybe this team is not quite where they've been in the past.
It's cyclical, right? You typically go from being a bad team, and once you develop your younger players and become a good team, you generally have younger players contributing significantly on entry-level deals. And when eventually they need to get paid. And so when they get paid, you can't keep your team together anymore. So there's a finite amount of time for the window of winning, and you're hopeful that you develop and can replenish quickly enough and find players, but it's not easy. They tried to do it, and they've kind of made some misses in regard to their bottom six, and filling those holes, it makes you realize how important some of those guys have been.
John Cooper, one of the most tenured coach in the National Hockey League. Yeah. It's quite remarkable the run that he's had in today's era, where sometimes it's hard to hold these kids' attention.
Yeah.
Squirrel.
I think you need that in the room.
Do you believe that there is a shelf life for a lot of coaches here? I mean, you played almost 1,000 games. Was there a coach that you just knew was on borrowed time?
I think typically my experience is coaches that are so demanding and mentally draining have a limited shelf life. The coaches that are able to that can lean on the room and that can pull on your individual competitiveness and trust the leadership group to kind of manage some of the standards that a team creates, will be able to do it for longer periods of time. And I think Coop's in that same breath. He's created a standard. He's let the players now manage that standard and maintain it. He has to go in and remind them what their standard is. But I think the key for coaches to have that sustainability is make it become the player's standard, not yours. Mm-hmm. If it's your standard and they never meet it, you're never going to be able to keep it.
What's crazy is I wrote a little bit about this and how teams can't keep their best players. Listen to the names they've lost over the years here. Ryan McDonough, Yanni Gord, Andre Palat, Alex Killorn, Carter Verhaeghe, Matthew Joseph, Blake Coleman, Barclay Goodrow, David Savard, Luke Shen, Tyler Johnson. Those are all guys that were on their cup teams. To continue to have success, eventually you do feel like that drop-off is coming, which brings me to the Penguins, who they're playing tonight. Crosby having a good year, Malkin pretty good. Like, a lot of their players are doing really well. They're 7th in the division still. What's going on? Why is that team scuffling despite the fact that their best players have been pretty good?
Another example where they're perhaps too reliant on their top 6 and their top 5 or 7 players. And you need to have everybody. I mean, it just doesn't work. You need younger guys contributing. I don't know what's happening in the NHL, but for me, there's a lot of guys that just take up space. The bottom 6, it's like, what are they? Mm-hmm. They don't check. They don't produce offensively. They just skate around a million miles an hour and don't do anything.
What do you think Sam does for our show?
You need to fill bodies at some point.
Right? I'm not like, when we had a role, it was an energy guy, kill penalties. Like, you dial into that role and you take pride in that role. I feel like a lot of these guys they feel like they should be on the first line. They feel like they should be on the second line. They're like, they never quite, and all those, like 6 of those guys that you mentioned, really good players, but relish their role as a third, fourth line guy on a winning team.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me just keep the conversation going on head coaches, because we heard today a press conference, major press conference in Ottawa today, announcing Jacques Martin back with the Ottawa Senators as a senior advisor to Coach DJ Smith for the Sens. What did you make of it?
Well, I always take it from the player's perspective. And I think 2 things it does, in my opinion, negatively. It gives the players an out, so the players can say, well, obviously I knew that system didn't work when we started doing it.
Yeah.
And you kind of make the players listen less to the head coach. So what are you trying to accomplish? I feel like if you're going to do something like that, I'd rather the players didn't know. I'm not saying he doesn't need it, and teams don't support their staffs and have brilliant people behind the scenes.
I'm with you 100%. My first thought was, if you're going to have a major press conference, it better be to
make him the coach.
Announce a new coach. To say that you're adding someone as a consultant or an advisor, to me, I get the fact that he's a big name. He is the winningest coach in franchise history, most games. I get all of that. But you're drawing more attention to your point to the players to say, well, this is a big deal, and he's a pretty big guy, and he's a pretty powerful guy, and he's going to come in and now kind of coach behind DJ Smith. Mm-hmm. Is that maybe somehow players can think that way?
Well, they've had trouble scoring goals. We all know that, but really it's about defending if you're bringing in him, right? So at the end of the day, there's only 3 ways to defend: man on man, more of a zone, or a man and a half, they call it. So typically it's like, if the puck's in my area, I'm on it. But if I get beat, there's layers. So there's really only 3 ways to defend. How much is he really going to change? To me, defending is your willingness to do it. How committed are you to defending? Mm-hmm. It's not like he's going to come in and reinvent playing team defense, turning pucks over, allowing odd man rushes, not protecting the house, protecting your position, understanding time, score, situation. Like, it's on the players at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really unique spot because the players are, you're right, it almost does like confuse the role a little bit. Like, who am I listening to here? So, that seems to be the thing right now with a team, a league where everyone or 20 teams are all pretty good. You see the Oilers make a coaching change, and they're kind of doing a little bit better, but the Wild make one, and they're doing a lot better. What happens to teams when you put a new guy back there? It's not like these guys that get hired have won 10 cups in the past. They just seem like new guys more than anything. So why is there maybe you don't like the phrase, but dead cat bounce, as they call it when a new guy comes in?
I feel like there's 2 things that could happen. One is some guys who've been squeezing their sticks a little bit too tight, kind of relax. That's mostly the higher end skill players. Mm-hmm. For energy guys like myself, it's like, okay, is this guy for real? Is he really saying that if you play well, you're going to play more? So there's actually, I can chew up a few more minutes if he likes me.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, he kind of a new person kind of can appeal to both sides, right? So everybody feels like, I've got to prove it to this new guy. This is my chance to earn more ice time. This is my time to relax and just play and have fun. So all those things happen at the same time, but you won't really know if it works.
Lasting.
It sounds funny. Like 5 games isn't really a benchmark. It's like, we'll see how they are halfway through the season, like 25 games in with him. So, but give credit to Billy G, who was one of the best teammates I've ever played with, who understood top line all the way through the lineup, how important every person was. And he has a great understanding in the pulse of his group. And he probably wanted to make that change 4 games prior, but wanted to make sure he can get the person he wanted and made the move. It's probably not easy to do it. I'm sure you create a relationship as a manager with your coaches, and You brought them in, you liked them, you want them to succeed. They had this team was thinking about cup before the season started.
Right.
So, but it's not easy to fire someone. So give them credit for that.
4 unanswered goals by San Jose. I know this is a team that is near to your heart, JB, but we'll let Jammer go first on the New York Islanders here. And I get there's a legend running that team right now in Lou Lamoriello, but at some point, are people going to be expecting changes there?
You're right. Absolute legend, genius of the game, the mentality, the understanding, the building of like everybody understanding that you're pulling in the same way. Nobody ever did it like Lou. And there's so many managers and coaches that have been mentored by him. So his legacy will live on in that regard. I don't know. I think that you have to let the players play. They look tight. They don't look like they're committed to playing the way that they want to play. It doesn't look like it's fun. And that can't be. I think the players have changed. And in some respects, it sounds silly to say, like, listen, when
like they don't take their work home with them. They're less emotional on losses. Where do you point first on the change?
They want more say. They want to be involved in decisions, in how you're playing. Give you an example.
For 20 minutes or 10
texting.
minutes, this has been a voice text. Has all been
To my
recorded.
wife.
So
She's
you just
gonna be
sent
like,
that to his
"Thank you
wife,
very
this
much."
interview.
No, I think our expectations as adults and coaches have changed. I don't think they've changed in that respect, kids. I think they still want structure. Still want, but now they want to participate in that. At the end of my career, I remember having a PK meeting, and one of the young guys says, "Well, why would we do that?" And I was like, "Because he said so." What do you mean? Look at this guy. You crazy?
It's like our kids.
Yeah, right.
But they want to participate, and why? And I think that as difficult as I saw that transitioning happen near the end of my career, I started to see it. And now I'm a parent, and they want to participate in that. So, not saying they haven't evolved and done that part, but I think you got to be careful with this generation of where you're choosing to control them, because I think it starts to chip away from their joy of what they're trying to do. So that to me is the challenge. Like, how do you marry those two things about the structure and all those things that he wants in there? Some of it you have to back off a little bit to I don't know. I feel like they were just not having fun.
But that's, it's really a fundamental question, because imagine telling your strictest coach in the NHL that you weren't finding any joy in your role. Be like, the joy just isn't there for me, coach. Like, I mean, it is different that anyone should care about that, which it is a job for a lot of these guys. So it is quite the evolution. I've seen it. I worked with Sheldon Keefe in the minors, and there was a power play meeting where it was just, what do you guys see? What do you guys want to do? And not saying that you would let them, but really hearing them out. And that is sort of a different mentality of a coach than certainly, I'm sure, when you were playing.
I think the Minnesota Wild is a perfect example of maybe getting more power back into a head coach. Minnesota lost 7 in a row, took out Dean Evison, and now have won 4 in a row. I think there's a lot of struggling teams out there that maybe a few owners might be going, if it worked for them, maybe it might work for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, what do you see out of Minnesota for 4 games that we didn't see prior?
Just resilience. And it's not just the change. It's like, my understanding is that Hines is a very demanding coach. Mm-hmm. And that, to me, goes back again to Billy G's awareness of what his group needed in that moment. Like, he saw things he didn't like. I don't watch them every day enough to know, but he knows enough to know this isn't the group that I expected. This isn't the compete. And some of those things are fixable, right? So that's what a coach can do. A new coach can come in and say, this is the standard. If you don't meet the standard, you're not going to play. And then he's trying to build that standard for them to make it their own, right? So, and they're having success. So the early success also makes them buy in even more.
This guy's ideas work.
Yeah.
So another guy who is going to be playing for a new head coach, hasn't played for him before, Patrick Kane, former teammate of yours. Hip surgery coming back tomorrow. He makes his debut as a Detroit Red Wing. What are your expectations? Do you think he's going to be able to come back and contribute in a meaningful way after, a fairly invasive procedure?
Yeah. After, I've talked to him a few times, and honestly, I think that initially I was a little bit surprised that he went to Detroit. Mm-hmm. But now, knowing him and knowing his mentality, he thinks, in his mind, he's going to play 5 or 6 more years.
Really?
So for him, this isn't like I'm going to come back and I want to win a cup, which I think a lot of us thought that he was going to do. He's thinking, where can I play in the top 6, play with really good players, and show I still have it? Not only for the NHL and everybody else around, but for himself. He's playing for 3 years, playing on one leg. He's the fastest to ever come back from this surgery. Yeah. I read an article where he was skating after 2 months. And he stayed in, I think he had it in New York. He stayed in New York and was skating, getting the motion down and kind of redefined. I think Ed Jovanovski was one of the last hockey players to get this done. But the long-winded answer is he's going to be closer to the Patrick Kane of 30 years old than the last 2 years that we saw. He's going to be really good.
Yeah, we had Jovo on last week, and
Dr. Jovo,
Dr. Jovo. If anyone wants to go back and find that podcast, it's a worth listen in terms of his knowledge on having hip surgery and what he went through and the chances for success for Pat Kane. But Detroit at 14-7-3 is starting to look like a good choice for Pat Kane. The only thing I see that derails something in the future for Pat Kane in Detroit is if he can't play anymore. I don't think he picked Detroit to either get traded again in March or leave next summer. I really believe that he picked Detroit because he sees something in the next 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever he envisions playing. I think he wants to stay in Detroit.
That's a good point.
Would you agree with that?
I think that's a good point. I would say he wants to play the year out with Detroit.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think that probably is what part of the conversation you had with Stevie Y is, regardless of how I do this, even if I play well, can you promise me that I'll stay here the whole year?
I don't see him as a guy that just wants to bounce from team to team.
He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to.
Sometimes you're like years later and you look at Rick Tocchet and you're like, he played for the Boston Bruins. I don't remember that.
Well, I remember thinking that, when Perry and Foligno signed their Blackhawk deals, that part of that would be eventually they would go to a cup contender, and that might be part of the appeal of being in Chicago. So, yeah, I guess it's different motivations for people. If Kane feels, he's got 3 Stanley Cups, maybe less desperate to go chase one instead of finding a place he can play 3 years after this summer.
Yeah.
Be a top UFA.
No one loves there's only lucky to play with a lot of really good players. Can only think of one other guy that loves the game as much as Patty Kane does, and that's Joe Thornton. Yeah. Just love everything about it. Coming to the rink, talking about hockey, watching hockey, just everything about it, staying on the ice. I'm like, dude, I can't start getting bag skated until you get off. Get off the ice.
Go home.
Enough. Yeah. I'd have to tell him, come on. And so he just loves the game. The fact that he's close to 100% health-wise, I mean, anything can happen. I think the difference between him and Jovo, too, is Patty Kane's 182 pounds. Jovo's
such a good point.
Way more physical, lumbering around. He was a little older when he had the surgery. Kaner, I tried, when I played against Kane, I told him I'm trying to run him over every time I could. Couldn't hit him.
Yeah, no one ever hits him.
It's hard to hit him. Yeah. He doesn't get hit. So it's about how he feels and how he moves.
It's Jamal Mayers getting ready for Wednesday night hockey here on Sportsnet. Pittsburgh and Tampa starting 7 p.m. Eastern. Also on the network regionally is Carolina and Edmonton. Did you buy into that whole American Thanksgiving that they're cooked turkey?
The turkey? I didn't. My kids didn't want turkey. And I love Thanksgiving, but I had to fly back early on Thursday of Thanksgiving. I like to do the cooking, so I'm like, I'm not cooking turkey. It takes too much work if you don't really want it. So I made a tenderloin.
Where did you have Edmonton at American Thanksgiving? Missing the playoffs or a team that, no, not so fast?
I had them missing, but now maybe what was more clear, I think that all gets thrown out the window because the West is a mess. And I mean, some teams who make the playoffs this year are going to 80 something,
87,
right? And so I think that's kind of not. It's an abnormal year for that. But having covered a couple of their games, 3 of their games, I was really concerned. They weren't defending. They weren't I think we realized how important Draisaitl and McDavid were. They've never struggled that mightily
together
at the same time. They have their holes, but I think they'll figure it out. Goaltending kind of exposed a lot of what was wrong with them. Hopefully they figured that part out with Skinner. But, it's hard to doubt. I think they make the playoffs. I thought they were a cup contender. I'm not sure of that.
Okay, well, listen, we know you got a meeting coming up, big night ahead on the network. We really appreciate you coming by and stopping by.
Oh, this was fun. Thanks a lot for having me.
Okay.
Thanks, Jammer.
Jamal Mayers, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we welcome back in, we'll bring Sammy in, and we're going to go over some quarter pole trophies. Calder, Hart, Norris, Vezina, Jack. I think me and you, we probably would. I'm thinking, thanks, pal. I'm thinking maybe we're going to hit maybe 3 out of the 5.
Think so?
Yeah. That's what I think.
I kind of went off the board a little bit.
Did you?
Yeah, let's
Okay, I can't
check
wait
it
to
out.
hear it.
All
Okay,
right.
Sammy McKee back after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, let's welcome back in Sammy McKee. Hey, when we have a guest, where do you go?
I just stood outside the door.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
All right. I would go to the calf.
Buddy who was here, he stole my seat. His handler there. What was the guy's name?
Garrett.
The handler.
Well, he stole my seat, so I had to go out.
Jamal's handler. He doesn't need one.
You got game time for us?
Oh,
or
yeah,
you
sure.
want to do it now? Or
I'm just, sorry, I was just busy scrolling Twitter for updates. Yeah. It's game time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. So I'll just do a quick check-in.
Okay.
Same as yesterday.
Plus 150.
Minus 175 for the Dodgers. Plus 150 for the Blue Jays. And the LA Angels have gone into third with plus 700. So,
Question.
yes.
Would this be an opportunity for a mighty happiness hedge to place $500? I know, silly number, but a lot of money on the Dodgers. If you lose your money, you're happy.
But then he goes to the Angels, and you're like, oh, wow, that was dumb.
okay. Excuse my gambling ignorance here, but with so many people involved, from the Blue Jays to the Dodgers to, could not somebody know for sure and just go to a buddy who knows a buddy who knows a buddy
Probably.
and say, put down a lot of money and make money?
Yeah, that would be called Josh Norris.
No. Shane Pinto's the name you're looking for.
Josh Norris. Hey, the Norris family.
Sorry, guys.
Line 1, the Norris family for Sammy McKee.
I got my marginal Ottawa Senators mixed up.
Oh,
boy. Okay, now looking ahead. The World Juniors are coming around the corner, and I was looking at the odds. They have them on Bet365. And I love the World Juniors, and I want to talk about how Minton and Easton Cowan both headed to the World Junior Selection Camp. Not on the team, but both headed to the camp, which is great. Canada is plus 300 to win the tournament. I feel
Plus
like,
300.
they're probably going to win or come close to winning, so you'll be in that bet. So I don't mind that. A little plus 300 bet on Canada to win the World Juniors. That's looking way ahead. Tonight, a couple games. The one you were talking about with Jammer with the Lightning and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh plus 110 in Tampa. I think it's a bit of a mid-off. Neither of these teams are very good, I wouldn't think, and I like Pittsburgh a little bit more. So give me the Penguins at plus 110 in Tampa, fellas.
Yeah, okay, I like that.
Okay.
By the way, you mentioned the World Juniors. Also a good time to watch Kip and me on TV all the time.
Oh, yeah, you guys.
The Leafs play on the 27th, 29th, 30th, 2nd. We're all over it. We'll be on camera.
And Carolina is plus 100 in Edmonton tonight. Going to be some goals in that game, I would imagine. The total's pretty high. I wouldn't mind having Carolina with the over in that one. And
I don't know what's wrong with Carolina. They're
They can't get a save.
14 and 9 and
No
1.
saves.
It looks good,
Yeah.
but there's something not right there.
They're 32nd in save percentage. They're getting no saves.
The one that blows me away a little bit too is Orlov at $7.5 million.
Is he still winning the green jacket?
There's some nights he's playing 14, 15 minutes. Like, I'm shocked that this guy's not playing like a stud that he was.
Crazy
in Boston.
Right? We saw him in
early.
Boston. They were calling him Bobby Orlov.
I
Which is
know.
a great nickname. He was unbelievable there. It is baffling watching his performance there.
All right.
And last one, because there's some good games on tonight.
Very.
Florida Panthers at home against the Dallas Stars. A Florida Panthers win with Sergei Bobrovsky, 30-plus saves, plays plus 425. So I like that as a little same gamer.
What?
All right.
So there you go.
Great, nice parlay.
That was Game Time, presented by Bet365. Visit the app for the latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
And for the record, with absolutely zero leaks coming out of Ohtani negotiations, there's no chance that a friend tells a friend tells a friend.
No.
Tells a
But
friend.
if any of our friends know anything,
Call us.
Yeah, we could use a call.
I wouldn't
And let
mind
us
that.
know.
I would love someone to tell me. I'd love to get that scoop. That'd be a good one.
Because I think it's a fairly significant story here in Canada that Jacques Martin's back with the Ottawa Senators. I want to get your thoughts too on it, Sammy. But just in terms of, I think, the heat perhaps that Michael Landauer, the new owner of Ottawa, and Steve Staios were feeling on an Ottawa fan base calling for DJ Smith his job. Was this kind of built up to kind of appease some people and to help alleviate some of that talk and just calm the waters down?
Well, I liked your point, and I hadn't thought of it, because I think if you're Andlauer, you're going, okay, people aren't happy with maybe the coaching staff or whatever, so we'll bring in someone who's established. He's an Ottawa guy. He's an all-timer here. What's the harm in having him on the staff? But you read his role. So he's the eye in the sky, but he's going to come down every intermission and go in the coach's office and talk about what he's seen.
This is not I'll come in once a week, every month,
intermission he's coming down.
day to day,
Yeah.
at age 71.
So-
And I'm not telling anybody that, he should be put away to pasture or anything like that. But,
That's fine.
at age 71,
Running the president,
might-
the 80s.
it might not be everybody's first choice. It's not like hey, Jacques Martin's out there and where's he going to go? It's not like we've had that conversation the last little while.
Yeah. No, it's going to be unique. And so when I was at the Marlies, Jacques Martin was a special advisor with the Leafs, and he would come around a little bit. Him and Jacques Caron would come by, and DJ Smith was an assistant coach there. So they have a relationship that goes back to Toronto, those two. So I don't know if there's some tie where DJ's like, I wonder if DJ was approached and said, would you have interest in this? Or if someone said, hey, here's a guy we're putting in your hip pocket. What do you think? Like, I wonder if DJ would have had the authority to turn this down if he didn't want it.
I don't think that was brought to him. I'd be shocked to hear.
I would like to decline that. Then you won't be here. I'm okay with it.
Like, I think he knows the temperature of the water out there, and it just doesn't line up. I think this is one of those where they got to string some wins in a row, and they got to get out that perception that they're bottom feeders in the Eastern Conference, no matter what the record shows. And I don't know, is he there if DJ does not dig this team out and get them truly in a position to make the playoffs?
They hand him the reins. Understand?
Does it go to Jacques Martin for the rest of the season? That's the logical choice here, is it not now?
Boy, I don't know. So Martin was with the Penguins when they won the Cup as an assistant coach in 2016 and 17, I believe. I don't know where. Is that right? I don't know.
I'm looking up right now.
Yeah. So he was with the Leafs after that. So yeah, it would be surprising to name him the head coach of an NHL team. So But there does seem to be this relationship with Andlauer, which he values, right? He's got Steos as a guy. They obviously see him as someone that they want around. So, maybe you're right, Kip.
He was an assistant in 2021 with the Rangers as well. It was his last
2021
on the bench stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Been with some good teams.
I just can't imagine that DJ Smith is really excited about this.
Yeah, you're probably
It's hard to be like,
Oh, I think he'd hate it.
I mean, how could you not? You're bringing in a guy that's literally watching me from above and coming down
just
and
any
addressing
guy.
me. Not any guy. They're
An Ottawa Senator legend.
Yeah. What did you say? He's got their all-time wins leader, their all-time
Games, coach,
playoff
wins,
everything.
like all the records.
So to me,
9 years.
Can't be a good sign.
Interesting.
Okay.
But it's interesting.
For sure.
You guys want to do a little quarter pole action here?
Do you know people are going to get mad at you for saying quarter pole, Kip? Because
What is it?
quarter pole is actually the final quarter of the horse race. The first quarter is not.
Okay.
So at 82 games.
You're a regular Eddie O over here, eh?
Yeah.
Mr. Racehorse and guy.
61 games would be the quarter pole.
Okay, so
anyway.
scratch
At the quarter mark.
and
the
down
quarter.
the stretch is no good too, right? You got anything else for me?
Just being pedantic to really set the tone for the show.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I had to say it.
At the 22 and a half game mark. How's that?
Perfect. You nailed it.
Well, that's quarter-ish.
Ish.
We just move on. I regret saying it.
Well, Kipper, wasn't this your idea?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then let's do it.
Who's the MVP of the league so far?
Trophy. Who has been the best player? Not who we think is going to win it. Not a prediction. Not a whatever. The season ended right now. The Hart Trophy goes to
Kucherov.
Nikita Kucherov.
Yes.
Samwise Gamgee.
Quinn Hughes.
I hate that we have the same one. I also picked Quinn Hughes.
Yeah.
Cooch. Tell me their Cooch justification.
I just think.
Shoots in the net a lot.
I mean, he's leading the league in points. Is that
Yeah,
good?
and I don't know where this team would be without him.
Yeah.
The power play would be without him. Don't even know if they're going to be consistent enough to hold a spot or not in the playoffs,
Yeah.
but he is their team.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. It's definitely a worthwhile vote. The Quinn Hughes one, Cale Makar right there, neck and neck for me. I think, Cale Makar has a breath more points per game, but Quinn Hughes has just controlled hockey every minute of the season.
So if we are doing this like in the vacuum that the season ends today, I think a lot of what goes into these awards is the narratives and the stories and where teams are expected to be versus where they end up and who that team's best player is. And I think the Canucks have been maybe the biggest surprise in the league to this point.
Sure.
Scuffling a little bit now. Yeah. But he's been their best player, plays in all situations, has the puck the most of anybody in the league. It's a narrative-based one for me and a pandering one for our friends in Vancouver.
It's
But
pulled back a little bit, though.
But also, how about this?
But the
Are
season
we
ended
sure
today.
Quinn Hughes is the best in his family this year?
I would say
Jack-
he would be the MVP if he didn't get hurt, Jack Hughes.
Jack Hughes is leading the NHL in points per game at 1.83.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a worthwhile vote there. Cale Makar in the conversation. And also, I want to make a note as a voter for these. I am dying to give Nathan McKinnon a Hart Trophy. He should have won it the year Taylor Hall got it.
No question.
He should have won it, I don't know, a year or two ago. I forget what year it was. He's had my vote both times. He just is a force to be reckoned with. Ton of points this year. He's having a great season, so keep an eye on McKinnon.
Just to look at the odds of our three picks, Quinn Hughes is 22-1, and Nikita Kucherov is 5-1. So Kipper's closer to being correct than we are, according to the books. So there you go.
Way to go, Kip. You win the closest to the books award.
So if you go hard for Hughes, you got to go Norris.
Norris,
right?
Quinn.
You
go Cale Makar on this one?
Flip a coin.
Yeah, I mean,
it would make no sense.
But does it have to be?
It just makes no literal sense. If you say this guy's a better defenseman,
yeah, I guess
you can't.
Okay,
so I guess that's why
okay.
a defenseman never wins the Norris. I mean, the defenseman never wins the MVP is because they just get the Norris, right?
Yeah, part of it.
Let me rephrase this and go off the board.
Okay.
Is that a horse racing term? Can I use off the
You're
board?
allowed to use that. You
Okay,
have my
thank you.
permission. Yeah.
If you had game 7, who would you want? Hughes or Makar?
Makar. Oh.
That was fast.
Yeah, I've thought about this. This is not.
I'm gonna say Makar.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Makar.
Unanimous.
Just a bigger body, right? Like he's
got that physical element.
He's won the cup. He was unbelievable for them when they won.
He's physically more dominant than Quinn. That's
No question.
That's it. And that's an element that cannot
over a playoff
be overstated enough.
Nope, worthwhile. Vezina Trophy. This has to be the hardest one. Vezina Trophy. Do you have a?
For me, I'd go Demko, and I know it's not that pretty in the last week, but
It's a perfectly valid vote.
minutes played, save percentage. Yeah. No, it's Demko all day long for me.
I think Demko he's second in like goals saved above expected. He's right there. He's absolutely it. I have Aiden Hill just because he's margin. I don't think Vegas has been that good. I think they've got a lot of really good goaltending, and his numbers are like incrementally better than Demko in a couple of categories. And I just said to myself, if Aiden Hill were in Canada, would I have picked him over Demko? And it's like, yeah, I would. So I'm going to give it to Hill.
This is the one I struggle with the most because I just looked at what the top 10 goalies in save percentage. It was the first place I went to look. And like you said, Aiden Hill's number one in save percentage at a 9.35. And then it's Jeremy Swayman, 9.32. Connor Ingram.
He's been awesome.
Cam Talbot. Charlie Lindgren. Semyon Varlamov, and he's only played 8 games. I understand that. Same with Lindgren. 13 games, Logan Thompson, 9.19. Allmark, 9.18. Tristan Jarry, 9.18. And the last is Jonathan Quick at 9.18.
So it's not Brodeur and Hasek is your point. It's a bunch of guys.
I really don't know what to kind of pick out of that. I guess if I was going to go with one from that list, the Boston guys are really good. I guess it's hard to pick. Allmark won it last year, but maybe this is the year that Swayman wins it. He's got 13 starts. I don't know. So maybe that's my pick. I'll go with Jeremy Swayman. How do you like that?
I like it. I also need to ask you what your shirt means.
What?
What your shirt means. 10:01
yeah.
hockey. What's that?
That's just the guys that play with on Thursday morning. I wasn't intending to wear it, but
It's hot. No, never. No.
But I had to take off my sweater.
Gotcha.
So yeah, 10:01.
Gotcha.
Shout out the boys. Yeah.
Yes.
But so I'm going Jeremy Swayman.
All right. What are we on to next? What do we like? Jack Adams? Got a coach of the year for me, boys?
Yeah, I do. Kipper?
You go first.
Laviolette.
That's good.
Yeah.
Good pick.
I think they've been a good team, and I know they're scuffling a little bit here. It's a tough time for us voters at this point of the season. I think Laviolette, just the way they've looked in the games that I've watched versus how they've looked in years past, they just look like they're playing a little bit different, more locked down brand of hockey. Yep. So give me Laviolette. Thought about McClellan too.
I got John Tortorella. Philadelphia
Really?
Flyers are 7th in the East, and I think a lot of people had them as a bottom 2 or 3 team this year. They got, what's the word that he said? They got heart. I think he said they have. They got a lot of heart there in Philly, and I think that starts with the coach's mentality.
I'm going off the board on this one. Winnipeg Jets, Scott Arniel and Rick Bowness.
That is way off the board. No Rick Talking, by the way. Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I had Winnipeg just dead and buried this year.
We did.
So much.
We've been mean to them over the years.
So much
Yes.
adversity with the contracts and the players wanting out, and nobody wants to sign there. And all I'm watching is the other night, these guys go tic-tac-toe, Nick Ehlers and the rest of them, just they look like they're a fun team to watch, and they look like they enjoy being with each other. And how can you not credit that coaching staff? And I know Rick Bowness has been gone for quite a while. Now he's returned, but Scott Arniel has been this guy that nobody really talks about, but they're doing something really well there.
All right.
And I think the record shows it at 14-8-2.
Yep.
Good stuff. All right. And last one
I'm just looking at the books.
Yeah.
I am trying to find that pick. It's not.
He's just scrolling down.
So John Tortorella is 25-1, and I don't think they have it posted here because it's been a 2-guy situation.
No
but
bonus.
Yeah.
Wow. That's how you know you're going to get paid
No,
to
it's
get
there.
that one.
It's there. It's there. 20-1.
20-1. All right. And anyone not have Connor Bedard for Calder? No.
I'd like to sit here and get
Off the board.
greasy with it,
zag.
but there's just no way.
Yeah.
Luke Hughes has been pretty great.
Yeah.
He really has.
Brock Faber in Minnesota have been very
Yeah.
good.
I'm going to do an article tomorrow for the Toronto Star. Just talk about just in general bench management, line changes, length of shifts. He's one of the top guys in the league for length of shifts.
Who's that?
Connor Bedard.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kipper, you came in after his debut.
4th game of the year. So is that
Just
early?
His shifts are too. Just killed.
Right, too.
And you're right.
But it's just out of control.
I remember you and I did he was 3rd longest average shift length.
Yes.
Over a minute average shift
Average
length, which
over
means
a minute.
half the
A
time you're more than that.
rookie.
Okay. So I don't have as much of a problem with that as you two do.
It's ridiculous.
For sure.
Not that he's a rookie to me, just that's way too long
No,
a shift.
blah, blah, and a rookie.
Okay.
So he's supposed to come off the ice for, I don't know,
Flurb Turgeson,
Yeah, I
their
was gonna
4th liner.
Mackenzie Entwistle. Like, I don't know. If I'm sitting on that bench, I'm Connor Bedard trying to win a hockey game, and I look over at the bench with my nobody squad, I might stay out there an extra 10 seconds.
It's not his job to worry about who else is out
Sammy,
there.
you go into a room and you portray that I'm playing with a nobody squad, and we'll see how long you last
Well,
in
guess
that
what?
room.
I don't have to do that. That's why I'm sitting here.
You
Who's
get
our
to sit
boss
there
that
with
says,
your
I know I talk a lot, but I can't hand the ball to these guys.
10:01 T-shirt. That's what you do.
I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal like you guys do.
Yeah. I don't care that he's rookie. Just
But isn't that on the coach to tell him? Be like, hey man,
some of it, yeah.
shorten him up. But he's trying to win. He's their best player.
Trying to sell tickets,
I
I
don't
guess.
want to
and
undercut your
T-shirts.
article tomorrow, but the couple of guys at the top of the list had a coach that people didn't think was doing a very good job for a while.
3 out of 4 Minnesota Wild.
That's right, and he ain't there anymore.
Nope.
So tighten it up, coach.
Yeah.
What was number one? Was it
Kirill the Thrill
what
in
was
Minnesota.
105 average.
105
shift length.
average.
Should be like 37 or like 43.
41, 43 if you're
if I was-
busting your ass.
I was going to say between 41 and 47 was going to be what I would say is like a good
Yeah.
one. 30 is too short,
So,
man. You're not doing anything.
If you
out
want
there.
to kind of connect the dots with Minnesota again, so Kirill the Thrill, number 1 with the longest average shifts.
Yeah.
Second was Zuccarello.
Little Zuck, yeah.
Sliding in third, Connor Bedard. And then we're back to Minnesota with Goldie.
Yeah, Boldy.
Boldy.
Yeah,
Goldie Boldy.
yeah. At some point, you got to get the Oscars hook off the stage. We need you to catch your breath, or you're not going hard enough out there.
Yeah. All right, where else do you guys want to go? Concerned. We didn't really talk about this out of the Board of Governors, but Gary Bettman concerned about an ice rink not being built in time.
We mentioned it yesterday,
Yeah.
but this is just vintage.
You think?
Oh,
But this is not a new complaint. This has been on the radar.
But he's gearing it up
for what?
to not send him. 100%.
Well, no kidding there, Sherlock Holmes. There's no rink.
Oh, there'll be a rink. He'll be fine.
Oh, really?
He's laying the groundwork
All
to pull
right.
the shoe.
So this is
he
no, I don't buy that for a second.
he doesn't want to shut down the league.
If they
he
haven't
never wants to
started
shut
on
down the
building
league.
a rink,
Now,
it's a issue.
they don't get done.
the Olympics.
They're
Like,
dependable over there. They'll get her figured
What,
out.
like
throw money at the problem.
like Luigi and Super Mario are going
Yeah.
to build this thing up in what
Yes.
2 months?
It won't take long. They'll be fine. They'll get
Have
it done.
together. Outdoor rink. Who needs a roof?
Yeah.
I'm just know that he's not really upset about this news. Let's just say that. He doesn't
What
want
do
to.
you think?
He doesn't want to stop the league, Kip.
What do you think the Coyotes need to build a rink now? It's going to be at least 5 years.
Oh, an exorcism, a few Hail Marys. They need help.
Bourne, you want to talk about your Islanders?
No. Islanders have
I have it here.
what's that? The stat I had for you there?
Yeah, I can pull it
Are
up.
we just, to conclude,
I got it.
JB, that Lou Lamoriello's never getting fired there
I don't know
either?
what's going on there. I know sometimes people are
You
frustrated.
think they
with
would?
him. I think they would.
Okay.
The Islanders have trailed for 10 minutes per game this season, which is the second fewest in the entire NHL. 10:02 to be exact. So they're barely chasing the game. So easy to play when you're tied or out front. They've led for almost 25 minutes per game, 7th most in the NHL. And they just blow leads, man. They blow leads all the time. 10 third period leads they've blown. They were up 4-1 against the Sharks and blew it.
Do we have their captain, Lee?
We do.
On his comments on blowing the lead?
We do have that clip.
I'd love to play it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't got any words for you on that. It's bad. It's really bad.
We're going to use that on loop.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's really bad.
It's really bad.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Okay, that is. Can we have? Okay, Derek. Can we have Brad May and then Lee back to back?
Oh, it's not good. No, he's.
Well, it's not good.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah, that sounds like their season.
It's not good, too.
Crazy,
it's bad.
though.
You mentioned the Islanders. I wanted to flag this because it's coming up. The
Oh, yeah,
Leafs
love
have
this.
2 opponents before they go to Islanders. They have the Sens tomorrow night, and then they have the Preds on Saturday. John Tavares is 4 points away from 1,000 for his career. So potentially what happens in the next 2 games, he could be heading into Long Island with a chance to get to 1,000 points in an arena where he is absolutely beloved.
And he will be feted. They will.
Oh,
they will. The applause, the ovation.
He may get it before then, though.
tastes more delicious than Schadenfreude.
No, he won't get it.
He's streaky, though.
I'm telling you right now.
And he's
getting
due.
He's getting his 1,000th on Monday.
What's he got? A couple of goals in what, 14,
2 goals in
13?
his last 14, I think. Yeah. So
We go through this every year with him.
yeah,
And literally every year.
Yeah.
And it's just like, don't even think about it
He'll
really.
have 9 points in 3 games
it'll
coming
happen
up.
quick. So
but I'm curious.
no way. No way.
Eventually, Vince Carter got some applause in Toronto.
And it was despicable.
Well, maybe this will be despicable too, but maybe some people aren't as cold-hearted as you, and they let people back.
This is wrong. Sports fans should be pissed. How it played out in their minds was unacceptable. And that's in their minds, and they can think whatever they want to think. They're a passionate fan base. I stand with the people of Long Island and how they feel about John Tavares. I really do. I get it.
He's not buying your participation
No,
trophy.
man. It's a sport. It's sports. You're supposed to have hate. You're supposed to
I'm
be
not a
mad
grudge
at
holder.
people.
I just think that if someone
Boo.
gives you 9 years
Yeah,
of service
listen, I
and
get
is,
it.
Your best player and
I get it.
good in the community, and,
I get, buddy.
exercises a right within it. Listen,
I get it.
I was in the Gillies household talking to Clark about it at the time.
What'd he say?
He didn't like it.
Yeah.
He was on Long Islanders' side. And so for me, I got to listen to that and understand that they're frustrated.
I get it.
Eventually, it's going to. Tavares didn't rip the city apart.
He didn't tell him he was going to stop dunking.
No, he did not do that. He played hard at least.
Yeah, but
so I think eventually Long Island may welcome him, but it is a tough nut to crack if they're not happy with you there. I can tell you that.
Okay, last year, I know this was mentioned also, but the NHL going to Vegas to the Sphere.
Yes,
I
to
love
the
it.
giant emoji.
Yeah.
Love
okay,
it.
this is the last time that they're going to do a traditional draft
They're going
to
out
save
with a
money.
bang.
So they go and spend
All of it.
all of it at the Sphere. What am I missing here?
Do you have a
Spending money to save money.
Kipper hear anything about how much it cost him?
Yeah, a ton.
Okay.
7 figures? Yes, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
Multiple 7 figures?
Yes.
To me, it makes it a spectacle. It makes it something you watch. It makes it something good for the league.
Okay, so
Rather than Yzerman's
so
kitchen.
they're in danger that it could be too good.
Yes, and then they would have to do neat things for the
They
fans.
have to go back.
Yes.
I'm sure everyone's going to be so, happy to be like, well, we'll never do that again.
Yeah.
When it's like all the writers get to go to Vegas
Right.
and everybody's in Vegas.
Here's Zoom video
Yeah,
of Jarmo Kekalainen's.
You ever catch that second
cabin.
day when they're halfway through the second day and general managers and their tables want to get up and leave and catch flights and get the heck out?
Maybe you just do one day then. I don't know.
No, 2 days.
Got to be double day. You're there
maybe
anyway. You're
everybody
right.
will stay the extra day. Wow, what a show.
Yes.
Jam-packed today. Our thanks to Brad Treliving, Gord Stellick, Jamal Mayers, as he gets ready for Wednesday Night Hockey on the network.
25 hours and 5 minutes till the Leafs play.
Have a great night, everybody. We're back tomorrow.
First.